welcome to another edition of Orange Heat. My name's Giovanni Heater. As always, thank you for joining me. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a new format nowadays. I'm going to start with more of a podcast. I know before I was in front of the camera talking. Just going to see where it goes. Something that I see a lot of people doing. I really enjoy it. It allows me to use more audio. It allows me to use a nice microphone headset and everything like that. So we'll see where it goes. If you guys let me know. If you want to see my ugly mug back in front of the camera, I certainly don't mind that. I love being there. So you guys just let me know. I'd love to hear some good feedback out of you guys. With that being said, go ahead and add the Twitter at GeoHeater, add the Instagram at GeoHeater. Please like, comment, and subscribe on anything on the YouTube channel. It's really appreciated. I'm trying to grow this show, and it's really, really exciting. Tonight, we got a pretty good show for you. We're going to blow through the Cuse in the City because to be quite honest, I don't really want to dwell on it, and I don't really want to think about it too much. Then we're going to talk about Syracuse basketball, dissect those losses, talk about the football team's loss. Quick thing, though, shout out to the Syracuse women's basketball team. They did get our one win in the Cuse in the City set. That was a big win over number 20 ranked Texas A&M. The women are they're hot right now. They're doing pretty darn good. So shout out to them. That was our one positive out of the weekend. So as I said, we're going to blow through the basketball losses, talk about the Notre Dame game, then we're going to move on. We're going to put it behind us. We're going to do a beautiful preview of the Syracuse-Boston College football game, and we're also going to talk the Syracuse basketball win over Colgate on Wednesday night. So, here we go. Let's dig right into it. Syracuse basketball had a rough 2 losses in New York City over the weekend at Madison Square Garden, our home away from the Dome. These are 2 losses, in my opinion, that look really good if you win them, but they hurt you a lot more since you lost them. They're resume builders, and they're also resume killers. The committee does look a lot at the NCAA tournament. They look a lot at your non-conference schedule, and those were 2 big games for us. Besides the Ohio State game and the Georgetown game, really those are 2 solid games for us that would have helped us, but they certainly are going to hurt us, I think, in the long run. You got to have a big showing in the ACC now, and you got to win out the non-conference because the UConn game was a game that you should have won, and the Oregon game, that's a toss-up in the air. But these are killer games right here. And in my opinion, you got to beat Ohio State next week on a Wednesday night where's Ohio State from? I can't think of it off the top. Columbus, Ohio. You got to beat them at Columbus. And then I think you got to beat Georgetown at the Dome. And I think you got to have a strong showing in the ACC. When it comes tournament time, these are things that they're going to look at. And these losses, I think, really, really hurt us. This is the first time since the 1987-1988 basketball season that Syracuse has started off with a 2-2 record for a start. It was just ugly. They were 37.5% from the field on a combined 11 for 50 from the three-point arc. 11 for 50. That blows my mind. They couldn't find the stroke whatsoever. O'Shea Brissett really didn't show up on the big stage like I thought he would. He had a combined 20 points in the 2 ball games. And he was just 18.5% field goal. So wasn't good out of him. I was expecting more. I would have liked to see him drive to the basket some more. I think he was forcing threes. He was forcing shots, jump shots. He was forcing three-pointers, and that's not his game. I want to see him drive to the hoop. I want him to get to the charity stripe, and that's his ball game. That's where he's going to play his best, is if he can work his way into the paint, put up some free throws, and that's where I've seen him do his damage and take over a basketball game. Didn't see it in New York City. It was really disappointing. Buddy Boeheim, really disappointing thus far. I mean, it's almost to the point where you almost wish that they would have redshirted him. He's not getting as much action on the court, and he's really he's been on a dry spell, for lack of a better term. Dolezaj, he's playing scrappy. I think the opportunities just aren't there for him. I think that Elijah Hughes is taking over in a spot, in the starting spot where Merrick Dolezaj had an opportunity to play at last year. I don't think Merrick's ever going to get an opportunity to start really this year, but he could be a big six man, and I think he needs to understand that. He needs to hustle his butt off, and I think he can be a threat scoring. His jump shot has clearly gotten better. There's more of a confidence to it. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do. You really, in these two games, you needed Frank Howard out there. I mean, there was just a lack of leadership, in my opinion. I think Frank Howard's leadership would allow O'Shea to go from the wing to more of an inside presence as far as rotation goes. And I think you needed Frank out there. He's the core of this team. Last season, he was a huge piece into why we made a Sweet 16 run. He can shoot the three, he can drive to the bucket, but he also can dish the ball, had a lot of assists on the season, and you just need him out there. I think Jalen Carey played well for what he can do, but I don't think he's really ready to take over that leadership spot at the point guard. He's a good scorer, and I don't think he's really ready to pass the ball as much. I mean, he committed a lot of turnovers over the weekend, which we'll get into later, but I just don't think he's ready to really lead this basketball team and what we're trying to do. And that could be part in coaching as well, which we can get into at another time. I also think that we needed to see more out of the team as far as the offense goes. I think we need less isolation. I mean, you got guys like Tyus Battle, Elijah Hughes. They're just trying to put a one-on-one game up. O'Shea Brissett, they're trying to go one-on-one and just score the basketball. That's not really what we want to see, especially when our shots aren't dropping. You need more team play offensively. They haven't really clicked yet, in my opinion. So let's dig into these two games a little bit deeper. Syracuse lost to UConn on a Thursday night, 83-76. Jalen Carey was pretty big. He did have 26 points, as I said, in his Garden debut, so he showed up there in a sense. He can clearly score the basketball, but as I said, he's just not ready to run this team at the point guard position. He did start the basketball game. Frank Howard did not play, as I said. It was surprising to me that he started. Tyus Battle wasn't in there at the point guard to start the ball game. He's just not, he doesn't have the leadership presence, and I think he can grow into that. He also committed 6 turnovers. You got to give him some credit. This is only he's a freshman. This is only his second year playing at point guard, really, and he's not going to start at point guard. Frank Howard is once he comes back. But his only other point guard experience is his senior year in high school. So cut the kid some slack. He still showed up big. We wouldn't have been in that game at all without his 26 points. So kudos to him. He can really drive to the bucket. He soaked some nice jump shots. So he was exciting, but there's things to work on there. Elijah Hughes looked pretty decent against UConn. He scored 15 points. I think that defensively, we honestly played really well, in my opinion. Because here's why. We force the shots that you want to in a 2-3 zone. They just sank these ridiculously deep three-pointers, and UConn shot 58% from the three-point line. That's ridiculous. And it wasn't even the college three-point line. They were shooting from the deep NBA three-point line, 5 or 6 feet beyond the line, and it was just ridiculous. In the 2-3 zone, you want to push them out. You want to force the hardest shot on the basketball court, which is that really deep three. And they just were sinking it. And there's not much you can do there, in my opinion. That's what you wanted to do with the 2-3 zone. You didn't really let them inside too much. You wanted to force those deep shots where they have a less likely chance of scoring. I mean, you're not going to contest them all the way out there necessarily, because that's when you are going to give up passing lanes to the inside, and they just hit the shots. So 58% from three, especially from where they were shooting, is ridiculous. That's not going to happen every game. In fact, that probably won't happen again this season, if you ask me. But that was just a big deal. They played good defensively, in my opinion. UConn was just sinking some crazy shots. I mean, it seemed like every time we got some momentum build up, UConn would just respond with this ridiculous three and sweep it all the way. One thing that definitely killed us for me was we were severely out-rebounded. 46-32, UConn out-rebounded us. Guys, We're taller at every single position in this ball game. We outmatched them in height in every single position, and they out-rebounded us by 14 rebounds. That's just ridiculous. That's just a lack of hustle. That's a lack of being there. That's a lack of mentality to me, and I was really disappointed when I saw that, especially with our height advantage. Kudos to a very good UConn basketball team, though. I mean, they did go on to lose pretty badly to Iowa in the championship game. But I think this UConn team has certainly improved. I think they're a pretty good team. I think we'll be hearing from them later on. I think they very well could be an NCAA tournament team. You never know. One thing, a lot of people are saying how much they hated Dan Hurley and everything. And yeah, it drives you nuts when he's the one beating on you, and it drives you nuts that he played at Seton Hall, where it was a rival of ours back in the Big East and everything. But really watching him out there talk to his team and how pumped up he was, it reminded me a lot of Dino Babers, actually, and the fact that his basketball team is buying into what he's preaching. I mean, they're buying what he's selling, and his team was excited. He was excited, and it reflected on the court because they beat us fair and simple. And I think that's how they beat us, is their mentality, their desire, their want to win. And kudos to that good UConn team. I mean, really, I don't like UConn any more than any of you. Obviously, diehard Q's fan, rivalry, hate on UConn all the time, but kudos to them and that coaching staff for a good showing out of them. An unexpected showing, really. The following night, Friday night, in the third-place game, Syracuse dropped another one, losing to the Oregon Ducks 80-65. That's rough. It was our first meeting ever in program history with the Oregon Ducks, and now we're 0-1 against them. It just didn't look good. I felt like our heart wasn't there. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it in the team, and it drives me nuts because you see teams like Duke, you see teams like UConn, they're huddling up, but even just before a free throw, they're talking, they're boosting each other up. I feel like we're playing with a bunch of all-me players, and I haven't seen a lot of team orientation. I think that's part of Boeheim. I don't know if he really knows how to connect with the younger crowd and coach them as well as he could. So I don't even know what to say there. The heart wasn't there, and it was really disappointing. We really had trouble penetrating the ball on Bull inside. I mean, Bull's a maniac, son of Manute Bol, the NBA legend, and he put on a show. He was ridiculous. He really showed Pascal Shuku up. Poor Pascal got destroyed on the inside. I mean, he's quick. He's really tall, 7'2", but he has some nice finesse moves, and he's one of the most athletic 7'2" players I think I've ever seen. And he can shoot the ball well. He stopped on a dime and put up some jump shots, and I was really impressed out of him. But defensively, we couldn't penetrate anything on him. We just couldn't score down low. I mean, our offense, when you think about it, is predicated on a pick-and-roll penetration type offense, but Oregon just wasn't letting us have it on the inside. Oregon is a very good basketball team. I think they're definitely going to be an NCAA tournament team. I think they're going to certainly run away with the Pac-12. They definitely have a shot at it. I think they're the best team in the Pac-12. Maybe the only competition there could be an Arizona State type team. Arizona's on a downfall, spiral this year after losing players like DeAndre Ayton last year. So I think Oregon's a good team. They're going to run away with the Pac-12. I mean, they played without Lewis King, their second best recruit. He was injured, and he's one of the best players on that basketball team from what I've read and what I've heard. And they completely played without him, and they played really well. We just got to shake off the rust, man. Just got to shake it off, got to shake off the rough weekend, and we got to recover. They knew that going into a big game against Colgate, and they certainly did. We got a great response out of Syracuse Wednesday night in the Carrier Dome against Colgate. Syracuse defeated the Raiders 77-56, and it was a hard-fought win. It was close for most of the ball game. It was just 35-32 at half, and we were really able to run away with it around the 13-minute mark in the second half, and it was just really, really good to see. Tyus Battle said, "Don't you count me out." He's going to get our flame of the game here tonight. He had 24 points and an assist. He was 3 for 3 from the three-point line. Wow, that's a tongue twister. 3 for 3 from 3. Listen to that. That's nice. And then he was also 8 for 10 from the field. So big, big showing out of Tyus Battle. I'm really hoping he can live up to that preseason All-American expectations there. Frank Howard made his very desired return, and he did start the ball game. He only played for 19 minutes, though, out of the 40 minutes in a college basketball game. He had 5 assists, only 3 points, but you could just feel his presence there. The leadership was there. He allowed Tyus to... I think that's what Tyus Battle needed to get going, was his buddy Frank back on the floor. Why? I'm not exactly sure. Just the comfortable feeling, I think. I mean, it's weird playing with new guys. I mean, basically, it was like the Sweet 16 team all over again with the addition of somebody like Elijah Hughes. Speaking of Elijah Hughes, he finished off with 17 points. He went 7 for 11 from the field, and he hit 3 3-pointers. That was 3 out of 5, so nice showing out of him. He's consistently been really good. I mean, he's just shattered some of my expectations. I knew he was going to be good, but he's been the go-to guy thus far this year. He's really dependable and exciting. It's exciting to see what he's been able to do. Pascal Chukwu went out early with a leg injury. No update on that yet. I'm really hoping he's going to be able to come back for the Ohio State game. Not really sure what the deal was. Boeheim didn't really release any information in the press conference. But Barma Sidibe did play very well in his place. He had a double-double on the night, in fact. 11 points and 10 boards. So, nice showing out of Sidibe, filling in the shoes of the big 7'2" man who's put on quite a bit of muscle weight over the offseason. Jalen Carey and Buddy Boeheim both didn't have any points. Jalen Carey played 18 minutes. Buddy played 14. Kind of a disappointing showing out of those two. Merrick Dolezaj had a scrappy 4 points. You know, hoping to see him get going a little bit more of a flow on the shot. He's confident. His confidence is growing. And he's sinking a few, but he's not there. He's not there. And he's not getting the same minutes he did last year either. So I hope Merrick can really step it up. He's always been one of my favorite players these last season, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Next game's going to be, as I said, upcoming Wednesday night at Ohio State. We're going to have an episode probably Tuesday night, the night before the game, to preview up Ohio State. And I'm actually going to have, most likely, if everything works out, a good buddy of mine, Darren Townsend, one of my neighbors, on the show with me. He's a diehard Ohio State fan. I'm going to be watching the game with him Wednesday night. Me and him always chat. He really knows his stuff as far as Ohio State goes. So I think I'm going to have him on to preview the Ohio State game with me, since he does know what he's talking about, and he's a good buddy of mine. And it'll be fun to just mix it up a little bit, you know? All right. Now, going into football. As we all know, Syracuse football lost to Notre Dame 36-3 at Yankee Stadium in front of a very pro Notre Dame crowd. I mean, Syracuse was only allotted so many tickets. There was orange there, but there was certainly a ton of Notre Dame fans, and it was technically, all speaking, a Notre Dame home game, with how it was all played out. Even there was nothing in Syracuse on the field. It was a neutral site, but it was geared for Notre Dame. We dropped to 8-3 overall. We fell to number 20 in the college football playoff rankings and number 19 ranked in both the coaches and AP polls. Clearly, there's very, very, very little, but basically no chance of a New Year's Six bowl. So I did see that we might be playing in a Camping World Bowl against a team like West Virginia. That would be awesome. Rivalry game. That would be insane. And for lack of a better term, it was rough. It was just rough. It didn't seem like the same team that we've seen all year. We've been very strong. We've been very good, and they seemed lackadaisical, and it was the worst I've seen them play all season. Only 234 yards of total offense. We're averaging 482 yards per game. So really, to see only 234 was pretty disappointing. We really just couldn't handle the Notre Dame defense. We threw 3 interceptions, and we were sacked 6 times, so the offensive line really just couldn't give the quarterbacks any time whatsoever. Dungy, for the little bit he was in there, he was running for his life. DeVito, same thing. With that being said, Dungy went out early with an apparent back injury. Not really sure when his return's going to be. It wasn't the same game after Dungy left, and it really, in my opinion, it wouldn't have been the same game if he had played. I think that there's no way that you can convince me it would have been the same 36-3 score if Eric Dungy plays that football game. There's no way. I'm not saying we're going to win that game. I think it would have been a lot closer, though, having Eric Dungy in there. No really update on when he's going to come back. We're not expecting to see him against Boston College next week. I'm hoping he'll be back, but not exactly sure. Tommy DeVito, in all seriousness, wasn't terrible. It looks bad on paper. It looks really bad on paper, actually. But in my opinion, he really wasn't that bad. He was 14 for 31 for only 105 yards. But, man, the receivers didn't help him at all. There were a couple long bombs thrown, beautifully put right in the breadbasket, that someone like a Nykeem Johnson or a Taj Harris, they couldn't corral it. DeVito throws a strike. That's a touchdown on the scoreboard. Even his first throw of the game was one of those. I think it was to Nykeem. And they just couldn't come down with it. So the receivers didn't help. They weren't catching the ball very well. That was a huge part of why the score was what it was. Only 119 yards for the team of total rushing. Not great. Not great. Usually you're going to have, 200 or more between Dungy and the running backs and everything. Only 119 today. So a little disappointing there. Thank God for our defense, man. Our defense showed up. Even though they allowed 36 points, it could have been 50-0, if you ask me. Andre Sisco had his 6th interception of the year. He's tied for first place nationally. And, man, he's only a freshman, so good for him. Really excited. We're going to have him for at least another 2 years, probably 3. I don't think he's going to leave his 3rd year for the NFL, but he could. That's out there, but it's, highly unlikely. Really, it's just we had a few big stops defensively inside of the 10 to force a few field goals, so that was big. Inside the red zone, inside the 10, few really, really big stops defensively, and it could have been a lot worse if those were touchdowns. To cap it all off, really, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, was, of course, our very loyal, our very automatic kicker freshman, Andre Schmidt, had to miss a chip shot. And that sums up the whole day. Something that's been so good for so long, so consistently, just falls apart and crumbles like that. And that's how the game really went. I think we're not as bad of a football team as we played. You can't tell me that it would have been the same outcome had Eric Dungy played. You can't tell me it would have been the same outcome had the receivers caught some balls. I just don't think we're that bad. We gave up some possessions doing that. Notre Dame's not going to score as much if we had more time with the football. So you can't convince me that we're that bad of a football team. I think this was one bad game that we played. This is the worst game we've played all season. Every team has a bad game every season. Nothing seemed to go right. But I'm just going to write it off as a rough game. It sucks. It absolutely stinks that it had to come at this point in the season this late, because they're going to judge us for it. And it seems like things mean more later on in the season. It stinks that it had to come against a very good Notre Dame football team that we were really hoping to beat. It stinks that it had to happen this way. But nonetheless, we're going to bounce back, and I think we're going to be just fine. Regardless, we're writing it off as a very successful football season. I think if we played Notre Dame 10 times, that we would win at least 4 of those games. I think that if you play them 10 times, you're going to win at least 4 of those games, because we're that good of a football team, and Notre Dame's very good. Credit to them. They came out with a good defensive plan, and they showed up to play. It's time to recruit. It's time to recover, and we got a fresh start next week against Boston College. Syracuse heads into Chestnut Hill Saturday. Kickoff's going to be at noon on ESPN, following right after College game day. They're going to be at Ohio State, Michigan, but it's kind of cool how you just get that flow right into the Syracuse game. A lot of people are going to be watching that. A lot of eyes nationally on the Orange. We got a chance to clinch second place in the ACC Atlantic. Syracuse offense dropped to 24th in the nation, averaging 459 yards per game and 40 points. Boston College has the 59th ranked defense and a pretty decent offense. This is really a very close matchup when you think about it on paper. It slightly does favor Syracuse. ESPN only gives us a 38% chance to win. That's partially because it is a road game and everything like that. And Boston College is a very good football team. BC's coming off a close loss to Florida State, a big shocker there, who we beat by 23 earlier in the season. Florida State found their stride a little bit. They're a little bit of a better team, I think, than when we had played them. I still think we'd beat them now. So I was really surprised when Boston College dropped one to Florida State. Maybe that was their one big game of the season. We really don't know much about Eric Dungey's injury, as I said. Dino Babers said that he would love to have Dungey. I don't really know what that means. We expect to see Tommy DeVito, and you just got to feel for Dungey. You know, you just got to... This guy's done everything for us. We can't thank him enough. I'd love to get him to listen to the show sometime. That'd be huge. But Eric Dungey, if you're out there, thank you so much, man. You've done everything for us. You brought us officially back. I've never been this excited about Syracuse football in my life. You've given us something to hope for. So to you, to Dino Babers, to the rest of the team, thank you. And you just got to feel for him. All he wants to do, I'd love to see him finish out, somehow play against Boston College and finish out with a strong bowl game that he so rightfully deserves. All right, digging into Boston College a little bit. Boston College is a very run-heavy team, and they have a really good running back, very solid. A.J. Dillon, he was a preseason Heisman candidate, so it's clearly very talented. He's been plagued with some injuries so far this season. I think the run game's going to open up some play-action pass opportunities for Boston College. They have some really good receivers, such as Kobe White, and I think they're going to be able to look downfield on us a little bit. Quarterback Anthony Brown for the Eagles is back. He was injured against Clemson. He did play against Florida State. He has 1,870 yards passing this year and 17 touchdowns. He's mainly a pocket passing quarterback. He has a little bit of mobility. Has had every opportunity. Really, they've held every opponent to under 30 in the last 6 games, so that's really huge for them. I mean, when you think about it, they're playing teams like Purdue, they're playing teams like NC State, like Virginia Tech, like Clemson, so to hold those teams to under 30 points, really good job for their defense. Some good defensive linemen. So kudos to Boston College, the Eagles, in that regard. They really haven't been able to score a ton of points off. And we're going to have to keep them from chewing the clock and have to do it and win games because they don't score a lot. On it, two offs. We need to maximize the points on the possessions. We're going to get less possessions than usual, I think, and we just need to make the best of them. Less field goals, more touchdowns, that's what needs to be done. We need to establish a game of our own. Obviously, we need to really, that's going to set up for throwing the field. You can't have a good pass without a run game to get that going. Tommy DeVito, he's been fluky. He's been good and very, very, very good in 2 games, and he's been kind of in another 2 games. He was really good against Florida State early on. He was really, really good against North Carolina, leading the charge for that big, big comeback, which we wouldn't be talking about Syracuse football the way we are had we lost to North Carolina. So, huge there. And he was kind of against Western Michigan and not that great against Notre Dame in the books. As I said, the receivers could have helped him out and he could have had a really good game. It just wasn't there. Not our day. we have to really just get up early on Boston College. It's a road game, tough place to play as always. They've had our number the last couple years. Our linebackers need to make some good tackles, and I think we just need to have a really, really good showing. Simple as that. There's not much else to say. We just got to be able to score in bunches, and we just got to have our linebackers fill the gaps. Our D-line needs to continue to get after the quarterback as they always do, but don't over-pursue. I think we give up some large scrambling chunks with that. And that's all I got, guys. I want to thank you for joining me on yet another segment of Orange Heat. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Later on next week, we're going to have an episode, nice little post game on Boston College. Then we're going to do a preview of the Ohio State basketball game. Thank you for joining me. Add the Twitter, like, comment, and subscribe at GeoHeater. Thanks as always, and let's go Orange. Woo!